My name is Kudzai Manditereza from Industry4.tv, and we're here at the Things Conference 2023 in Amsterdam. And right now, I'm joined by Johan Stokking from the Things Industries. Welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. So maybe could you begin by introducing yourself to the audience?
Yeah,
Tell us more about the Things Industries.
For sure. So my name is Johan Stokking. I'm CTO and co-founder of the Things Industries. So together with Winke, we created the Things Industries 8 years ago. We started with our community initiative, the Things Network. It started off as a hobby, as a side business, and after a few months, we realized that it could be our job basically. So we founded the Things Industries shortly after, and so now we have been working full time on LoRaWAN basically already for 8 years. 5 years ago, we decided to do a conference. 6 years ago already, and so this is the 6th edition of the Things Conference. So my role is CTO, so I take care of all the technical stuff in our business. I also contribute to the LoRaWAN specification, and overall, technical strategy, operations, engineering. That's what I do.
Awesome, that's really great. So maybe before we even dive into the questions, I really must commend you for putting on such a magnificent show here today, and not only for this event, like just kind of like the way you have been able to build a community around LoRaWAN for the past years has been really impressive. So kudos for that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I mean, the way we see it is that all the hard work is actually done by the community. We give them the tools and we spend some time writing documentation, but we also created really a platform for our community to engage and to find each other and to share knowledge and to contribute. So the actual hard work is really in the community, of course, but I think we cracked the nut in starting something where the IoT enthusiasts can actually flourish and create value for each other. We are super happy with that being so successful for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. And also I must mention it's one thing that was really of great interest for me was I was listening to your keynote yesterday. You introduced that generic node concept. That was really for me something that really stood out, and I'm really looking forward to exploring that more in depth. So
yeah, cool. Yeah.
Thank you so much for putting that out. So, I mean, as I mentioned, I really have been watching the Things industry for many years, and you've played a pivotal role in advancing the adoption of LoRaWAN for IoT applications. So can you share some insights into the current state of the LoRaWAN ecosystem and maybe highlight the key challenges and opportunities that you see for deployments in IoT using this technology?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I think if you would be looking at LoRaWAN and the state of the ecosystem 5 years ago when we did our first conference, there were a lot of conference talks about components. There were talks about antennas, talks about modules, specific modules, talks about gateway performance, gateway antennas even. So really the fine building blocks, and they all had their own talk basically. And now over the years you see that things become more commodity, and talks are here more about integrated solutions. And it really started, so you have the wall of fame behind us, and they are now off-the-shelf devices, right? They have their own casing, and we see this device, it's a really beautiful device with a whole design and everything. But only a few years ago, these were just PCBs with just some cables here and there. They were just soldered and small batches, really hard to purchase 100 of them at the same time. So I think that what the state of the LoRaWAN ecosystem now is that things have really got together, and it's much easier now to deploy LoRaWAN at scale. The time to value has decreased, so it takes only a few months now to, from planning a LoRaWAN deployment to purchasing gateways, installing those gateways, onboarding devices. So that's also a really accelerating factor. That makes it also much more accessible, because in the beginning you had to be, quite an engineering mindset. You had to understand a lot of things and concepts before you could get started. And with all the new tools that we have been working on today, also making onboarding devices much easier, it makes it much easier for everyone basically to just to set up a LoRaWAN network, just like you can install your Wi-Fi router at home. So yeah.
Nice. So I mean, you mentioned like kind of like how easy it has become. Are there any challenges that still exist within the ecosystem that you can talk about?
Yeah, so there's a great question. So the power, I would say, of the whole LoRaWAN ecosystem is that it's a standard at the heart, and that you have many parties that are all contributing a puzzle piece to an entire solution. And that makes it also quite challenging because you have to have those partners and contributors work well with each other. So our team for this conference is Specialize and Collaborate. So we understand that you have gateway vendors, you have device makers, you have network server vendors, you have integrators, and they all specialize. And that's a good thing. But they also have to collaborate at the same time. And that's where there's always room for improvement. And that's also where typically the challenges are. So if you want to onboard a device, for instance, and we are now working on very easy, secure onboarding with just one QR code, you scan the QR code, but a lot of things have to work in the back to securely provision that device. And so that's where some of the challenges are, but those are typically just technological challenges that we can solve with standardization work. I contribute a lot of my time on that, but also working with those partners and seeing, how do you see this, how do you see that, how can we make this easier for our customers? So it's more like the glue, I would say, and making it easier to integrate solutions and make it easier. Yeah, that's where I would say the challenges are.
Awesome. What I would like us to touch on a bit is on the opportunities that exist in this ecosystem. So in your keynote yesterday, I think you mentioned something that was really stood out for me, like the amount of messages and all the different value that can be built on top of that. Can you talk about like the opportunities that currently exist in this ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, what we tried to convey yesterday was that we are only contributing a very small piece of the entire value chain. So we route data, so we're just basically a very smart bit pipe, and we are processing 2.5 billion messages per month, which is quite a lot, I would say. Within that data, there are multiple data points, and all this data, this is a compounding, number of data. It adds up, it becomes a whole big data set, and this is also increasing. And I think where you see now the trends in AI, one of the challenges in the AI ecosystem is that there is a lack of high quality data. And so where I think this IoT and AI world is, coming together even more, as it already was, is that there is going to be an increased demand for even more high quality data points. And I'm sure that's going to drive a lot of demand and even more data in the LoRaWAN ecosystem. And so, I mean, we have been growing 50% in the last 9 months in terms of volume, in terms of device volume, and even more in terms of message volume. And we build our architecture in a way that it can grow, orders of magnitude even beyond that. So we are ready we are prepared for that scale, and we're happy to help our customers scale even more.
Awesome. That's happy to hear. So maybe in closing, what can we expect from the Things Tech in the future?
Yeah, that's also a great question. So we have been announcing a few things. So we have now support for LoRaWAN Relay, and that's a really nice feature to make devices, to provide coverage to devices that are currently really hard to reach. So devices that are on the edges of the network, that are unable to have a good connection with the gateway, and it would be infeasible or too expensive to deploy a gateway close to them. So there's a relay, which is sort of an intermediate LoRaWAN device that forwards the message to the gateway. Or if you have devices in the basement, for instance, and your gateways are outside, you would have a relay in between. So that's a new feature in the Things Stack that would open, I think, a lot of, that would make LoRaWAN suitable for scenarios where it's currently not suitable. So this is not necessarily automatically interesting for existing LoRaWAN deployments, but I think what we should be looking at as an ecosystem as a whole is what can we do to convince decision makers to choose LoRaWAN instead of something else? And I think that things like satellite and relay, the two technical improvements that we announced, are contributing to even accelerated growth of the LoRaWAN ecosystem.
Okay. So maybe just out of curiosity, with the new relay that you'll be introducing, what is the range of that?
It's actually the same range as any other LoRaWAN device, but because the relay is extending the coverage, so you're basically adding another hop between the end device and the gateway by adding a relay in between. So if you have, for instance, if you would have a sensor here in the basement of this building, you probably wouldn't be able to reach a gateway that's like a few kilometers away, because it's because of all the building and material in between. If you would have a relay here on the roof, it would make it very easy to interconnect the devices that are here in the basement to many gateways that are here outside in Amsterdam. So it's really network extension at a very, very low cost, because this relay is just a battery-driven LoRaWAN device. It's not a gateway. It doesn't have to have an internet connection. It doesn't have to have a cellular subscription or anything. It's just a battery-powered LoRaWAN device.
Awesome. So Johan, thank you so much for joining me
Thank
here
you
today.
Thanks so
Great
much for
talking
having
to
me.
you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Great questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.